The March Madness has begun, and following the biggest upset in NCAA tournament history, the 16-seeded UMBC Retrievers faced Kansas State and Atlanta, Georgia for a trip to the Sweet 16 at the top of the South region. Unfortunately for the Retrievers, their dreams would be cut short as Kansas State narrowly defeated UMBC 50-43 to face the blue blood of the SEC, the Kentucky Wildcats, who received a 5th seed in the NCAA tournament, facing Steph Curry's alma mater, Davidson, who was a 12th seed in this year's tournament. The Wildcats needed every bit of talent from their talented freshmen to take down Davidson 78-73. The powerhouse of the Pac-12, Arizona, wasn't so lucky, however, as they took their seemingly loaded roster to Boise, Idaho, face off against the 13th-seeded Buffalo, as the Wildcats would get a rude awakening when Buffalo came in and beat down on Arizona. Buffalo would move on to play the Kentucky Wildcats, but the Wildcats wouldn't have the same trouble that Arizona had, as Kentucky showed the power of a strong recruiting class and crushed Buffalo 75-95, setting the stage for a Kentucky versus Kansas State matchup for the South Region Sweet 16. With a game-winning shot against the 6th-seeded Miami, the 11th-seeded Loyola Chicago became the second double-digit seed to upset the higher seed in the South region. Their opponent, Tennessee, would come off a blowout win versus Wright State through the power of their inside presence in Admiral Schofield. But even Tennessee couldn't stop the destiny of the 11th-seeded Loyola Chicago, as the team would hit another game-winning buzzer beater, defeating Tennessee 64-62. and continue their magical run to the Sweet 16. In Nashville, Tennessee, Nevada sent NBA prospect Mohamed Bamba home early in a comeback 83-87 win in the first round in overtime, then did it again in the next round with an improbable second-half comeback down 22 points to upset a powerful second-seeded Cincinnati team to show what March Madness is all about. In Los Angeles, California, who brought the first team to score 100 points in the first-seeded Xavier Musketeers, who outshot Texas Southern 102-83. But even the return of Michael Porter Jr. couldn't stop the 9th-seeded Seminoles from clamping down on both their opponents in Missouri and the first-seeded Xavier Musketeers on their way to a Sweet 16 appearance. Following a championship loss last season, the 4th-seeded Gonzaga saw a close call against UNCG and needed a bucket in the final moments for a 64-68 win, then defeated 5th-seeded Ohio State 90-84 to earn a matchup with the Florida State Seminoles for a chance to enter the Elite Eight. The 6th-seeded Houston needed a game-winning bucket to squeeze out a win versus San Diego State before meeting the 3rd-seeded Michigan, as the 6th-seeded Houston would get a taste of their own medicine from the Wolverines with a game winner from Wolverine freshman Jordan Poole, where they would face the Texas A&M Aggies, who defeated last year's national champion, the North Carolina Tar Heels, and will be facing the Michigan Wolverines for a spot in the Elite Eight. Duke rolled past the first 2 rounds, crushing Iona 67-89, then doing the same to 7th-seeded Rhode Island, where they would meet the Syracuse Orange. After a play-in game and a close win against TCU in Detroit, Michigan, the Orange overcame all the odds against the 3rd-seeded Michigan Spartans with a clutch jumper from Tyus Battle and danced their way into the Sweet 16. Can they do the same against the heavily favored Duke Blue Devils? The 4th-seeded Auburn barely made it to the second round with a squeeze-out win versus Charleston, and after Clemson took care of business in San Diego, California, setting the stage for a South rivalry for the right to go to the Sweet 16. And Clemson would show the ACC can still have a strong presence in the Big Dance with a beatdown of Auburn, where they would play the Kansas Jayhawks, who enjoyed smooth sailing in the first round versus Penn, defeating them 76-60. But the 8th-seeded Seton Hall would give them more of a scare to the Sweet 16, as they squeaked out a win 83-79. The Boilermakers took care of business in the 2nd seed in the East, in Michigan, crushing USU Fullerton 74-48. But following Butler's impressive win against Arkansas from the 10th seed, the Bulldogs would get a dagger 3 from Matthias to send the Boilermakers into a Sweet 16 appearance. Both the Florida Gators and Texas Tech pulled off impressive wins in their first round games, but only one team from Dallas would make it to the Sweet 16, and it would be the 3rd-seeded Texas Tech to send them on a date with the Boilermakers. West Virginia used their press to clamp down on Murray State and earned their ticket to the 2nd round, while the 13th-seeded Marshall tore open the 4th-seeded Wichita State 81-75, but couldn't find the same success against the 5th-seeded West Virginia, who earned a date with the Villanova Wildcats, who flexed their muscle from the 1 seed, defeating the 16th-seed Radford 61-87, then taking on Colin Sexton and the Crimson Tide. But Colin Sexton and his team couldn't quite keep up with the firepower from the Cats, as the Wildcats cruised to the win 81-58. With the Sweet 16 now set, which team do you think has the best chance to make their championship dreams come true? Leave it in the comment section below, but until then, it's been your boy, Johnny Walker LA, and I'm out.